Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove, and I'm back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer all questions related to diet, training, and supplementation I received over the past 7 days from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers. Remember, if any questions relate to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me those questions at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. All right, let's get started with question number one from this week's No Filter Q&A. Nick, I've been eating in a calorie deficit for 6 weeks and the scale hasn't moved. Am I actually in starvation mode? This is exactly why I don't like to preach to people about calories in, calories out, or I'm not a huge advocate of you have to take in more or burn more calories than you take in order to lose weight. This is an exact reason for that, okay? If you start reducing your calories by too much, too soon, and you're in a severe caloric deficit, and you're doing cardio, and you're training every day, what's going to happen is your body starts to slow down. Our bodies are very resilient. I've talked about this in the past, how resilient our bodies are. Our bodies are very intelligent. So if you're not taking enough calories, but you're burning all these calories, guess what's going to happen? Your body's going to say, well, hold on a second. I need calories. I need energy. So I'm going to start slowing things down a little bit. It's like a train. You're going to start slowing it down. So something that would take you, let's say a workout, you're burning 300 calories. Now you're in that caloric deficit, a severe caloric deficit for a prolonged period of time. What's going to happen, that same workout that you're burning 300 calories, you might only be burning 200 calories now. Chances are you're not going to be training as intensely. Your energy levels are going to be lower. So you yourself are not going to be pushing as hard as you could if your calories were slightly higher. Okay, so when people talk about calories in, calories out, I get it. Yes, that works to a degree. However, in this person's case, you can see when you go into a severe caloric deficit, what's going to happen? The metabolism starts to slow down. The body starts to slow down. You yourself slow down, and therefore you're not exerting as much energy. All right, so if the goal is to lose body fat, build and preserve muscle, calorie counting has to be thrown out the window. It does. It doesn't work. Okay. What does work is focusing on your macronutrient intake. Okay. And making sure that you're plugging in your macros throughout your day based on when you work out, when you go to bed, when you wake up, if you have an active job, if you have a sedentary job where you're sitting all day. Okay. So these are all factors to take into consideration when you're designing a nutritional plan. And this is why I tell clients you cannot follow cookie cutter nutritional plans, because just because one diet worked really well for your friend does not necessarily mean it's going to work for you. And I've said in the past, if I start two people with the exact same template, which I rarely do, but let's say I start two people with the exact same nutritional plan template, that template will go in very different directions by week two because they're both different people. They both have different genetics, both have different lifestyles, both have different fitness levels. So because of that, it's important to make weekly revisions, sometimes even twice a week or 3 times a week to certain people's programs, to nutritional plans in order to keep the metabolism going and in order to keep your energy levels high and at least stable throughout a diet. Okay. So to answer that question, my recommendation to you would be to probably do a refeed meal. Whenever I have someone who's having a hard time losing weight, and I know I'm dropping their calories, I know their carbs are low, I'm giving them an hour plus of cardio a day. I'm like, okay, you know what? I need to take maybe 1, sometimes 2 days off from the gym, no cardio, no weights. And I want you to have not necessarily a cheat meal, sometimes a cheat meal, but usually just like a refeed meal. So I'll increase their carbs for one day. So if I'm giving someone, let's say 100 grams of carbs per day, I might say, okay, for the next 2 days, I want you having 200 grams of carbs. And what that does, it just refeeds the body and it kind of relaxes the body. It reduces the cortisol levels. It gives you yourself more energy. You can go to the gym again after those 2 days off, you have more energy. And also, never mind the physical benefits, but the mental benefits. So it's very important to understand when and where to plug in those meals. And again, working with an experienced coach can really help you navigate through that, because when you yourself are in the prep, and I mean prep as in if you're trying to just lose weight or gain muscle, whatever it is, okay, you're getting ready for a certain event, bodybuilding show, whatever it is, it's very difficult to, make a informed decision. It is, because you kind of have diet brain. And even for myself, when I get ready for, in the past, when I get ready for shows, even though I would coach myself, I still had people in my corner that I could bounce ideas off, other people in the industry, other bodybuilders that I've trained with over the years. And I'd ask them, especially if I'm doubting myself. Okay, so remember that too. If you are someone who has hit a plateau, seek help, advice, opinions from knowledgeable, reputable sources. Doesn't have to be a trainer. It could be someone that you work out with, a friend, a colleague, whoever. Bounce some ideas off them. But to answer that question, 9 times out of 10, when things stop progressing, in your case, the scale has stopped going down, a refeed meal can be, or even a few refeed meals can be incredibly beneficial. All right. Okay, Nick, what's worse for fat loss? Alcohol every weekend or takeout 3 nights a week? Well, they're both not ideal for fat loss. But if I was going to choose one or the other, I'd probably actually take the takeout 3 nights a week versus the alcohol for the weekend. Because here's the thing. Let's say, okay, the alcohol for the weekend, you go out on Friday night, you drink, go out on Saturday night, you drink. All right, that's it. It's 2 nights of the week, right? Now, even if we were to take the calories out of the equation, okay, and let's say you're out drinking Friday night, you're out drinking Saturday night. Let's just say, okay, you consume what, 3,000 calories if you're binge drinking, maybe more. It's not necessarily the caloric intake that I'm concerned about, or not even the sugar intake. If you're doing like cocktails and all this other stuff and you're mixing, it's not even that. It's actually the effect that alcohol has for not one, not two, but even 3 or 4 days after. All right. And so what I mean by that is if you go out that Friday night, Saturday morning, maybe you're a little hungover, a little foggy, probably don't go to the gym. Saturday night, you go out again, same idea. Sunday, wake up. Maybe you go to the gym, but you know you're not going to push yourself that hard because you are probably hungover. You're a little foggy. You might be, your blood sugar levels might be slightly low. You might be craving bad food. A lot of people notice the next day after drinking, they're craving bad food. So your diet goes off the hinges. Your workouts aren't as effective. That pattern for most people, especially once you're over the age, I find over the age of 40, it lasts for like 2 or 3 days. It's not like some guys or girls in their 20s that can, to go out drinking all night and go to the gym the next morning. Okay. A lot of people can't do that as they get older. So I find what happens with people who tend to binge drink is those 1 or 2 days. Yeah, on paper, it doesn't seem like much when you're thinking it's a 7-day week, but it's not just 1 or 2 days because it goes on. The pattern goes for another 2 or 3 days. So those 1 or 2 days now turn into 3 or 4 days. That's half your week. That's half a week of progress. So it's not necessarily the calories in the moment because, yeah, maybe the calories from 2 days of drinking are lower than the calories from 3 takeout meals. Maybe. I don't know. It depends on how much you drink, depends on how much you eat. But that's why I say, again, forget about the calories for a second and just think about the aftermath. Because at least if you're ordering takeout, let's say you order McDonald's or something, you're most likely not going to be hungover the next day from McDonald's. Some people actually tell me they're a little bit stronger after having a cheat meal. Okay, so I wouldn't recommend doing takeout 3 times a week, or at least if you're going to do takeout, try to make healthier choices. Don't just pick bad foods. But I would say that the alcohol consumption is more detrimental to your progress, your results, not to mention your kidneys and your organs. All right. So it's not that I'm anti-drinking. I mean, I drink on occasion. Not very much, maybe once a week, once every 2 or 3 weeks, but I drink in moderation. And I'm never hungover because I also know my limit. Not because I'm afraid to be hungover. It's just that if I am hungover, I know I'm not going to be as productive with my workouts or with my business. So I don't like that feeling. So I really make sure that I'm monitoring my alcohol consumption. All right. Because it is crucial if you truly want to progress with building muscle, losing fat, just becoming more overall healthy and fit. Alcohol doesn't fit in the equation. It really doesn't. No. So when people say, well, everything in moderation, sure. And I agree with that. Like I said, I drink in moderation, but you have to make sure that if you are someone who's like, I have a goal, I have a deadline, I want to lose 30 pounds in the next 4 months, which to me is a realistic goal. You got to really monitor how often you're putting alcohol in because it is going to have an impact on your goals for not just 1 or 2 days. Like I said, you're going to notice your sleep's not going to be as good. People notice when they drink, they don't sleep as well. So you're not going to recover as well. Your workouts are not going to be as productive. You're not going to be burning as much calories. You're not going to be building as much muscle. It all translates. You're going to maybe cheat on your diet, or maybe you're not going to eat because you're nauseous. So, like I said, those 2 days turn into 3 or 4, that's half your week gone. So my recommendation, if you're going to drink, keep it to once a week and keep it in moderation. All right. Okay. Nick, why do I look leaner after eating pizza than after eating healthy all week? You're most likely very lean. So you're someone like me who's very lean. So whenever someone who is very lean has a so-called cheat meal or any meal that's high in sodium, high in saturated fat, you kind of get that like pump in the body. right? If you're someone who is in double digits body fat, like say you're a guy and you're 14%, you're probably not going to notice this. But if you're someone who's in single digits, especially if you're getting ready for a bodybuilding show or photo shoot, and you're already in single digits as a guy or low double digits if you're a woman, like 14, 16%, you will notice when you have a meal that's not on your plan, that is high in sodium, high in saturated fat, high in simple carbohydrates, your body soaks it all up and you actually do wake up looking better. Going back to alcohol, a lot of people who are lean, when they drink alcohol, they notice that they can become more vascular because alcohol dehydrates you. So that's what's going on, is that you're so lean, you can actually see the sodium just soaking up. And you're also dehydrated when you have that food, kind of just takes all the water, fills it up into the muscle. So you do look better, but you have to remember it's not, that look is not permanent. That look is only going to last for a few hours and then it's gone. Okay. Then you most likely look soft again because now you're holding water. All right. So it's not something I recommend people do. It is a trick that a lot of people do for bodybuilding shows. They might have like some pancakes or a burger right before they go on stage. I know a lot of people are always shocked when they hear me say, I'll tell them, like when I train them for shows, I say, okay, I want you to have a burger and fries. Like maybe it's like 3 or 4 hours out before a show, before they step on stage. And they're, especially a new competitor, they're always shocked. Like, well, I've been dieting so long. Now you want me to go have a burger and fries before I'm going to be naked on stage? I'm like, yes, because you are so lean. We need to fill you up. All right. And that's something that you have to be very careful with, because a lot of people, if they had digestive issues, for example, then I pull back on that. And so I'll say, okay, well, we don't need to feed you that food, but we do need to give you more carbs. So maybe we'll give you more jasmine rice, more oats, okay, more whatever it is, more sweet potatoes. So something that fills you up more. Okay. So to answer that question, you're probably noticing this because you yourself are quite lean. So it's not something that I would be making a habit of going, wow, I'm going to go to the beach. So I'm going to go have a pizza beforehand. I'm going to look great. It won't last for long. All right. It's kind of like the pump in the gym. If you ever train arms in the gym, you know, when you get out of the gym, your arms look big, right? Like if you're a guy or a woman, you notice you get that pump. All that is glycogen and blood in the muscles. It starts to deteriorate after an hour or two after the gym, right? You go back to looking normal again. So it's not there for a long period of time. Obviously, it works well for physique competitions because you're being judged on your aesthetics. So you want to have that look, but it only lasts sometimes even for like 20 minutes on stage and it's gone. Okay, so it's a fine line to do, but yeah, it's quite common. And also, the more dehydrated you are, the better you're going to look. And again, I'm not advising anyone to do this. I'm just telling you that it's a known fact. That's what bodybuilders do. Look up our protocols before we step on stage. We dehydrate ourselves and we fill ourselves up with carbohydrates, pops up the muscles more. Okay, that's all it is. But you have to be lean to really see the benefits of it, like very lean. All right. Nick, if calories are all that matter, why do bodybuilders eat clean? Because calories are not all that matters. As I mentioned in the first question, it's not all calories, and especially not just counting calories and the if it fits your macros diet or any of that bullshit. Your micronutrients, the quality of the food that you consume, is of the utmost importance. It truly is. Eat like shit, feel like shit, look like shit, period. If you fill your body with whole, nutritious food, you're going to train better. You're going to sleep better. You're going to have more energy. You're going to have a higher libido. These are all facts. This is not something I'm pulling out of my ass. These are all facts. If you eat junk food, yeah, you might go into the gym after you go for a burger and fries and you might have a lot of energy for the first half an hour, but guess what? You're going to crash really hard. Okay, because it's not real food, it's crap food. It's spiking your blood sugar levels, it's making your insulin levels bounce up and down. This is not something that you want to focus on long term. If you want to have a good solid workout, you want to have complex carbohydrates pre-workout, you want to have healthy fats post-workout, you want to keep lean proteins in throughout the day, because then your body's going to stay like this. It's not going to be going like this. You're not going to be relying on coffee. You're not going to be relying on sugar. You don't need stimulants. So if you're following a clean diet, you don't need to rely on all that crap. So this is why I'm a firm believer in eating clean. And people I work with on their nutritional plans, when someone comes to work with me, I'm very honest with them from the very beginning. I'm like, look, I'm going to try my best to help you, but this is what I do with people. My goal is not just to help you lose fat and build muscle. I want you yourself to become more healthy, more fit, and I want you to feel better. In order for us to do this, we need to change your eating habits. If you're someone who has too much sugar, Okay. Because if you have too much sugar, for example, you're not going to sleep well. You're going to be very irritable at times. You're going to be very moody because you're going to constantly need that sugar. It's like a drug. If you're someone who relies on stimulants, you need constant caffeine. Well, that's not good either. Not that I have anything necessarily against caffeine, but too much is not good for your heart. So if you're someone who constantly has to have a cup of coffee every hour of the day or has to have a double shot of espresso when you get out of bed, that's not good because now you're relying on stimulants. So I would much rather you rely on whole food sources to get you through your day. Okay, it's much healthier for you. You're going to feel better. It's going to be better for your skin. You're going to sleep better. You're going to train better. Like I said, it adds so much value to your life to just eat clean. All right. And you can have the occasional cheat meal. I tell people this all the time. Like, you don't have to eat clean 100% of the time. If you can keep 85, 95% of your diet clean, great. And that's not asking too much, in my opinion, because you should really want to do something good for your body. I mean, you have to live in your body. Why the hell would you want to kill it with, all these toxins, all these carcinogenics? Like, you want to make sure that you're consuming clean foods. Right. So it's not about calories in, calories out. And to answer that question, the reason why most bodybuilders eat clean is because most bodybuilders, like myself, we train every day. We can't afford to have a shitty training session. We can't afford to have a shitty sleep. And for someone like myself, who's also a business owner, I can't afford to have a foggy brain. I need to be on it. I get up at 5 a.m. every day. I have emails to answer. I have clients to train. I have meetings to go to. I can't be dragging my ass. And I can't be relying on a shot of espresso to get me going. I don't even drink coffee in the morning. So the food is crucial for me to get through my day. And if I'm going and having a muffin or having a cookie before I start my day, I'm going to feel like shit. So I don't want to feel like shit. So I always go back to that eat like shit, feel like shit, look like shit analogy. And I swear by that. That's the one phrase I always repeat to myself and to my clients and try to get that take home message. I want you to have a healthy relationship with food. But to me, eating whatever you want, having highly processed foods, saturated fats, and high sugar, like that's not good. All right. Okay, so you got to be very careful what you're doing. And yes, the body does need some saturated fats. I know before anyone flags me, but in my opinion, most people consume way too many saturated fats, way too many trans fats, way too many foods that contain high amounts of sugar, fructose, all that kind of corn syrup. Not good for us. None of that stuff offers any benefits or any value to the body whatsoever. All right. Nick, can I actually build muscle after 40 or am I wasting my time? I got a similar question to this, I think, on last week's No Filter Q&A. It's a good question, though, because there's a lot of people who do hit 40 and they start to, second guess themselves and go, well, is there even a point for me to go to the gym? Especially for people who've never been to the gym. Like, I'm kind of stuck like this. If you're a guy, I'm going to have this belly. If I'm a woman, I'm going to have that cellulite. No, your body, especially now with sports technology, with all we know about dietary nutrition, I have a lot of clients that compare their bodies at their age now and say, well, my parents were this age. I'm like, your parents, let me ask you, were your parents in the gym 5, 6 days a week? No. Okay. Well, why are you comparing yourself to your parents? Okay. Were your parents following a clean diet? No. So why are you comparing yourself to your parents? You have to stop comparing yourselves to the older population because when you start comparing yourself to people in their 70s, people in their 80s, a lot of that generation did not go to the gym. A lot of that generation did not know about dietary nutrition. And I'm not saying it's even too late for those people who want to start. I think I always tell people it's never too late. Obviously, it gets more challenging, though, to break bad habits the longer you've been doing them. If you're 70 years old, and you're going to the gym for the first time, and you're someone who drinks every day, and you've been doing that since you were in your 20s, well, that's going to be a really hard habit to break, as opposed to someone who is maybe 35 and has been drinking every day since they were like maybe 20, 25. Okay. So the longer you've been doing those bad habits, smoking, drinking, eating poorly, yeah, it's going to take a little longer and it's going to be a little harder to break those habits for most people. Not all people. Some people can quit cold turkey. But in my experience, it just becomes a little bit more challenging the older you get because you also have more wear and tear on your body. Okay, the longer you've been around on this earth, there's a good chance that you put more mileage on your body. So your joints, your tendons, your ligaments might be a little bit more susceptible to arthritis, osteoarthritis, tendonitis, bursitis, and so on. All right. So if you are someone, though, who has been training in your 20s and now you're in your 40s, why the hell would you take your foot off the gas? I talked about this last week, how me at 40 now, turning 41 in October, I feel better now than I did in my 20s. More energy. I sleep better. I feel better. higher libido. All these things translate because I train every day and I follow a clean diet. My diet is cleaner now in my 40s than it was in my 20s. And I'm a firm believer why I have so much more energy, why I think more clearly, why I'm able to actually build more muscle more efficiently is because of my diet. My training's pretty much stayed the same. I might train a little bit more intelligently in the gym, approach my workouts a little bit more methodically, not looking for PRs, not trying to get one set, one rep maxes, none of that stuff, no ego lifting, but that comes of age for a lot of people. But to answer that question, you absolutely can put on muscle after the age of 40. I feel like I was talking about this last week, how, there's a study that shows that men their testosterone starts to decrease after the age of 25. And I said, true. But who are those studies done on? Are those studies done on active males? Or are they done on the average sedentary man who works 9 to 5 and goes home and sits on the couch and opens up a can of beer and has a bag of potato chips? Why would you, as an active man or female, compare yourself to someone who is sedentary? It makes zero sense. Okay. So you kind of have to think outside the box and start thinking, all right, do I really belong in these statistics? Do I fit into these statistics? And if you're someone like me, you don't. Because I'll tell you, the BMI, the body mass index, that's a generic statistic. According to the BMI, I'm morbidly obese. I'm 5'10". I'm 220 pounds, morbidly obese. Because all they're basing that on is your height and your weight. Okay. I think it's safe to say I'm not morbidly obese. So you have to throw these generic formulas and protocols out the window, even if you're someone who's starting brand new. If you're fresh and you're young, say you're 40, 45 years old, I don't know, I want to go to the gym, but what's the point? I'm not going to get bigger. You absolutely will, because your receptors are fresh. You're still going to put on muscle. Yeah, it's going to be a little bit harder because, like I said, you've got more wear and tear on your body than a 20-year-old does. But that doesn't necessarily mean you can't put on muscle. So you absolutely can. So do not use that as an excuse, and do not use that as a limitation to stop you from going to the gym. I work with clients, numerous clients, who just started working out in their 50s, and you should see them. It's incredible the transformations they've made. Okay. I've had clients start working with me when they're in their late 60s, early 70s. And again, making incredible transformations. Okay. Again, you have to approach your workouts a little bit more intelligently, a little bit more methodically, because you are older and you do have more wear and tear on your joints, your tendons, your ligaments, and your muscles. All right. Okay. Nick, should I stop lifting heavy if I just want to lose fat and get toned? I think you should stop saying that you want to get toned. I I hate when people say they want to get toned. Usually when people tell me they want to get toned, I look at them like, what are you toning? Okay, like I'm not trying to be mean when I say that, but the whole I understand the mentality of I want to get toned, but I'm like, what are we toning here? If you're someone who goes to the gym and plays with 5-pound dumbbells, I tell you what, you're not toning anything. All right, you probably don't really have any muscle to tone. Okay, you want to make sure you're taking a weight that is challenging. And whenever I design a training program for new clients, they always ask me, it's true, they always ask me this, are you going to put my weights in? As in the weights that they're lifting. I'm like, well, no, why would I do that? I don't know how much you're going to be lifting on your leg day. I don't know how much you're going to be lifting on your chest day. I'm not training with you in the gym. I don't know how you're feeling that day. But what I am going to do is I'm going to give you a rep range. And I want you to stay in that rep range. In most cases, it's 10 to 15. And I want you to start your first set of a new exercise with 15 reps. You want to pick a weight that you could easily do 30 reps with. And then for your last, if I'm giving someone 4 sets for an exercise, your last 3 sets, I want you to pick some weights that you can do 10 to 15 reps, but it's going to be a struggle. You can still get 10, you can still maybe even get 12, but getting those last, 13, 14, that's going to be challenging. And that's where I want you to stay within your rep range. And the reason I don't put weights into people's programs is I did that when I was a new trainer doing online programs for people. And then I would get feedback from them and everything was good. And then I'm like, well, what are you lifting now? This is 2 months into the program. Well, I'm still doing the same weights. You're still doing the same weights. I mean, you've been training for 2 to 3 months. Why are you not increasing your weights? You should be increasing your weights. You should be getting stronger. So I found that when I started putting weights on people's programs, they'd have their own limitations. Like Nick said, to do a barbell back squat with 135 for 15 reps. And 3 months later, I'm still doing a barbell back squat, 135 for 15 reps. Like, no, why don't you try increasing that to maybe 145 for maybe 12 reps? So rather than tell people how much weight to lift, I always tell them these are the reps I want you to get. Stay within that rep range, which means if you can't get 10 reps, the weight's too heavy for you. If you're easily getting 40 reps on set 2, 3, 4, the weight's too light for you. So you've got to pick that weight. And you'll know that. You'll know when you're training. The more you train, you'll get a feel for it. All right. This is why I don't keep journals or diaries or any of this nonsense. I have a good memory of my in-house clients, what their starting weights are, but the program changes. If I have someone that comes in and they're hungover, if I get someone that comes in and they haven't slept well, if I get someone coming in and they're dealing with a physical limitation or injury, I'm not going to give them the same weights I gave them when they were feeling good. That wouldn't make any sense. All right. So you have to listen to your body. Some weeks you're going to be stronger than others. Some weeks you're just going to be weak for no reason. So you have to listen to your body and stop focusing on the weight. So to answer that question, I don't recommend lifting lighter weights to get toned. That to me is probably the worst advice I've ever heard in this industry. Okay, to lift. Oh, if you want to get toned, you want to get lean and defined, lift these nice little lightweights. It's all bullshit. You still need to lift heavy. You need to build the damn muscle. You're not going to get big. You're not going to get bulky. I know when I'm saying that, a lot of women will say, well, I don't want to look like you. But listen, I train a lot of women. And I say, you're not going to look like me. First of all, you don't have the amount of testosterone that I have as a male. So why would you look like me? Okay. But the women I work with in-house, they are squatting easily, for example, 135, 165. If they're not big, they're not mass monsters. They've got defined quads, striated hamstrings in some cases. I've seen it. Okay. Glutes that go up, not down. They don't drop to the floor. All right. So I'll give you an idea. You want to make sure you're lifting heavy, but I always say it should be moderately heavy. And that's why when you stick in that 10 to 15 rep range, you can't go wrong, in my opinion. You really can't. Now, if you start going down to those 1 to 3 rep ranges, like a lot of powerlifters do, yeah, there's a good chance you're going to kind of build that bulky muscle because you're building that strength. But if you're training for the aesthetics and you want to have that refined and defined muscle bellies, I prefer those words, refined and defined, not toned. I hate toned. Refined and defined. You need to lift the damn weight, and it needs to be a challenging weight. And if it's not a challenging weight, you're not going to see the results that you think you're going to see. You're not. I promise you that 100%. Okay. Especially if you're a natural lifter and not an enhanced lifter. You're not going to look the way you think you're going to look if you're playing with 5-pound dumbbells on all your exercises. Okay. And that's just the way it is. All right. Okay. A few more questions here. Nick, is intermittent fasting actually better, or does it just help people eat less? So I've spoken about intermittent fasting numerous times. I've written blogs about it as well. I am a huge fan of intermittent fasting from a health component, strictly from a health component. I think it's probably the healthiest diet you could actually do. So if you are someone who is, let's say you're going through cancer treatments, you are someone who's just looking to improve your overall immune system, maybe you have an autoimmune deficiency, I'm a firm believer in incorporating intermittent fasting for these types of people. Who I believe should not be following intermittent fasting diets, though, are people who want to build muscle and lose fat, essentially transform your physique. The reason for this, well, there's actually a few reasons for this, but I'll break it down very quickly for you. The reason I don't like prescribing intermittent fasting diets to my clients is because most of the clients that come to work with me, they want to transform their physique in addition to becoming more healthy and fit. So I like to incorporate more frequent, smaller meals because we know, and I mean, numerous studies show this, this is not something I invented. We know that smaller, more frequent meals equate to a faster metabolism and a leaner physique and an easier way to build muscle because you're keeping the body in more of an anabolic state as opposed to a catabolic state. If your body goes into a catabolic state, it starts to burn muscle. So your body would go into a catabolic state, for example, if you're doing a true intermittent fast, which in my opinion, a true intermittent fast is 20 hours of fasting with a 4-hour window to eat. But the problem is those 4 hours, yeah, you might be getting in your nutrients, and you might be getting your vitamins, and you might be getting all your essential, macronutrients, whatever it is. But the body doesn't work like that. If you take in too much, you can't break it down properly. So it's going to be very hard to build muscle and lose fat. With that being said, though, it's not a diet that I've ever said you shouldn't do that diet. It's not something like the ketosis diet or the intermittent or the if it fits your macros diet, which I'm not really a firm believer of. I don't really like those diets. I think they're fad diets, cookie cutter diets. I believe those diets, what happens long term, anyone who follows those diets, they usually, if their goal is to, for example, lose weight, they usually put all the weight back on. Whereas with intermittent fasting, that diet is sustainable for a lot of people. A lot of people feel they have more energy on that diet. And again, for a lot of people who are dealing with autoimmune disorders or certain diseases, cancers, it can be incredibly beneficial. All right. So it's not that I would tell someone not to do intermittent fasting, but if their goal was to lose body fat and build muscle, I would not recommend it. I'll put it this way. I've never seen any physique competitor, whether it's bodybuilder, bikini, women's physique, anyone's physique who a lot of people would ideally love to have that physique, ever follow an intermittent fasting diet. Never. Okay. Because it doesn't work. The more muscle you have, you need to feed that muscle, preferably every 3 or 4 hours. I'm not like super strict with that with my clients. In fact, I just tell my clients, as long as you get all those meals in within 24 hours, I'm happy. But it's very hard to get the meals that I put on someone's plan, that the 6 meals, it's very hard to fit those 6 meals into a 4 hour window. I mean, you're going to feel very bloated. You're going to feel very lethargic. It's going to be hard to digest that food. You're going to be on the toilet. So that's why I spread them out. Okay. But if you can do it, I mean, sure. But I wouldn't recommend doing intermittent fasting if the goal is to transform your physique. But again, if you are someone who is looking for the health benefits, there are numerous health benefits to intermittent fasting. And for that reason, I'll never tell someone it's a bad diet to follow. All right. Okay. Uh, okay. Two more questions. Okay. We've got a lot of questions today. Nick, I've gained 5 pounds since starting the gym. Did I gain muscle or did I just get fat? Yeah, so this is very common. A lot of people, when they first start working out, they're surprised to notice they gain weight. And actually, I should rephrase that. If you're working out as in you're doing weightlifting, you're going to put on weight most likely. If you're just doing cardio, yeah, you're probably going to lose weight. But don't let that deter you if you're putting on weight on the first 2 or 3 weeks that you start a new workout program. That's a good sign. You are actually building muscle. Now, you're not building substantial amounts of muscle. You're not going to look like Ronnie Coleman in 2 weeks. But what's happening is because now you're following a resistance training program that's hopefully been structured properly, you're training the muscles in a way you've never trained them before. And because of that, now your body's going to start storing what we call glycogen. Now, glycogen is like oxygen for the muscles. This gives you that so-called pump in the gym and allows you to keep lifting. That's why a lot of beginners, when they come to the gym, even though someone might look strong, let's say you get a big guy in the gym, they might look strong, but you notice they burn out very quickly. I get this all the time with beginners. They'll take a set and like a big guy will come in and I'll give them maybe 20-pound dumbbells to do a chest press. They'll burn out. They'll do the first set, no problem, 15 reps. Second set, they start to burn out after 10 because they don't have the glycogen storage yet. Whereas someone who's been training for weeks to months to years on end, they already have that glycogen storage. So they're going to be able to have that muscular endurance and keep going throughout their sets. So what's happening when you first start lifting weights, your body is now going to be retaining glycogen and additional water, which is a good thing, okay? Because the muscles need water in order to perform. That's why creatine is so popular, because creatine fills the muscles with water, which makes people more stronger. It's not some magical supplement. That's all creatine does, right? It does work. But for obvious reasons, I've talked about this numerous times, why I don't recommend creatine. You can go back, read some of my blogs, check out some of the Q&As. I feel that creatine for most people allows them to hold too much water, so you get that watery retention look. So in my opinion, you don't need creatine. If you're just training correctly and you're training intelligently, approaching your workouts methodically, making sure that you're eating correctly, you're gonna store enough water and enough glycogen in the muscle bellies in order to perform in the gym. But it takes time. And I don't mean time as in 1 week. It can take up to 1 month to do this correctly. So when you put on weight, and I always tell new clients this, when you put on weight, it's a good thing. You're definitely not putting on fat unless for some reason you decided when you started working out that you're going to eat extra bad, but you're not putting on fat. It's just water weight, okay? Water and glycogen, that's all it is. What will happen after about a month of training, though, your body kind of resets itself, gets used to now you're training 3 or 4 times a week in the gym, let's say, and now you're eating correctly, your weight will go back down. It will, because what's going to happen then is as you put on more muscle, it's going to become easier to lose body fat. So your body composition changes. You lose fat, you put on muscle. Maybe the weight on the scale stays about the same. Maybe you go, down 2, 3 pounds, whatever, but it's the composition that's changing. Okay. So that's crucial to know, because a lot of people, when they go to the gym, they don't understand, like, why am I putting on weight? I'm going to the gym to lose weight. Change that mindset. You're going to the gym to change your body composition, not just to change your weight. That's so important, because when someone says to me, I want to lose weight, I'm like, what does that mean? You want to lose? Because when someone tells me they want to lose weight, I'm like, oh, so you want to lose fat muscle, and water. No, 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 I just want to lose fat. Okay, but you told me you want to lose weight. So what you mean is you want to lose fat and you want to preserve and build muscle and hopefully keep water. You want to stay hydrated. If you're not hydrated, you're going to die. Like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do. Okay, that's very important because if the goal is to lose fat and not just weight, stop focusing on the scale. Keep an eye on the scale, but that shouldn't be your main metric. Now the goal is what's changed body composition. So who cares if the weight goes up for the first week? I tell you right now, 10 times out of 10, whenever I work with a new client, the weight goes up. Always. In the first 2 weeks, they work always. And it's for that reason. Okay. Glycogen, water storage. That's all it is. All right. Okay. Last question. Nick, what's one thing you'd ban forever if you could erase it from the fitness industry? CrossFit. Yeah. No, not CrossFit. Even though I don't like CrossFit, I wouldn't ban it. I know a lot of people like CrossFit, but God, there's so many misconceptions out there. I think if I could, what I would ban is anyone who gives out fitness advice. I would include myself in this. Nutritional advice, they should have a disclaimer. And I always tell people, I'm like, you don't even have to take my word, but there should be some type of disclaimer on there and saying, this is my opinion. These are my views. This is not necessarily the only way to do it. Even when I talk about, how I don't like if it fits your macros diet or ketosis diets, that's me. That's not me telling you don't do it. If you want to go do it or some other fitness influencer is telling you to go do it or trainer coach, go do it. But for me, what I've noticed working for myself and the general population for 25 plus years, they don't work well long term. That's why I say don't follow those diets. I wouldn't recommend it. Okay. But if you want to go do it, but go do it. So I feel like there should be more disclaimers. And I feel like there's everyone who goes to the gym now is giving out fitness tips. I'm like, you've got to be very careful with that because even for myself, when I post things on Instagram, like I just posted an IG post, I think it was yesterday or on Saturday, I can't remember which day it was, but about how I just trained for 365 days, no days off. Took 3 days off before I got on stage because I always give my body 2 or 3 days of no train before I get on stage for that March show I did. But I trained every day with weights. I talked about how people would say, oh, that's overtraining, and how I said overtraining exists, but only if you're not trained correctly. People would say that you're going to get injured, you're going to get burnt out. And that didn't happen to me because, again, I was resting and I was recovering properly. Okay. So I was my whole idea of that post was not to brag about training 365 days a year or not telling others that you have to train 365 days a year. It was to show you that common beliefs and perceptions are not always as accurate as you might think they are. Okay. So these generic guidelines don't apply to everyone. And that's why I always tell people, even what I'm saying to you now, you don't have to listen to it. Some people will, some people might take something out of this Q&A and say, yeah, I'm going to follow this. Other people are like, no, this is not for me. I like doing it my way. Do it. Because if someone says this works for me, if someone tells me, hey, I can build tons of muscle and lose tons of fat doing intermittent fasting, I'm like, who am I to stop you? Go ahead, do it. I'm not going to tell you not to do it. That's working for you. Again, I can just go by experience and working with most people. But again, I'm using my own guidelines from just that experience. I try my best to customize and tailor the program for each individual once I start working with them. Okay. But I've never worked with you before. I'm giving you an idea of what has worked for people I have worked with. And that's all I'm basing it off of. So it's not that there's one particular thing that I would get rid of in the fitness industry. It's just that I do feel that there's a lot of, like I mentioned this last week, a lot of bad advice out there. And the problem with bad advice, it can easily become dangerous advice. And if you get some kids on there, or even not even kids, but like someone who's new to the gym, who's following this stuff, I've seen people come to my gym, tenants who work in the building, following YouTube reels on how to work out. I'm like, that's great, but no one's there to correct your form. So you think you're doing something correctly because you're watching a video, but I'm watching you in the gym in real time and you're doing that incorrectly. You're going to get injured. Most likely, 9 times out of 10, they actually do get injured, or they don't see the results that they think they're going to see because they're not training properly. They're not doing the exercise correctly. And because they're not doing the exercise correctly, they're not going to build the muscle, right? So if they're not building the muscle, they get discouraged. They don't see results. They never come back. So this is why it's important that when you yourself are trying to start a fitness routine, whether it's going to the gym with weights, whether it's running, you do your research. Okay. You make sure that you understand, how to do things correctly, how to do things incorrectly. Hire a coach, hire a trainer just for a few sessions. That can be incredibly beneficial for you. YouTube videos do help, of course. But again, if you don't have someone giving you honest feedback and critiquing your form and critiquing your technique, Do you really know if you're doing it correct? Okay. So that would be the one thing I would change is that I think that anyone who's a fitness influencer, and I include myself in this, there should be a disclaimer on there on everyone's YouTube videos, anyone's Instagram posts. I don't put a disclaimer. I just tell people this is what I do. I live the lifestyle. This is what works for the people I work with. This is what's worked for me. But again, you do what you have to do. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there say, no, this is the only way to do it. This is the only way to eat. This is the only way to train. I'm like, no, there's tons of ways to eat and train. Tons of ways that I probably don't even know. Okay. So, I mean, just make sure that you do your research on whoever you're listening to, whoever you're following, because you only have yourself to blame if you get injured, if you don't get the results that you think you're going to get. If you didn't do your research on the coach or the fitness influencer or whoever you're following or whoever you're taking advice from, you cannot blame that coach. You cannot blame that influencer. You didn't do your research. Okay. You didn't look to see, does this person have Google reviews? Does this person have testimonials? Did I watch a few of his or her YouTube reels, their shorts, their Q&As, whatever it is? Do they seem like a reputable, knowledgeable source of information? And if they don't, and you still follow them, shame on you. You only have yourself to blame. Anyway, that's it for this week's No Filter Q&A. Sorry, we went a little longer than usual today, but this episode will be going up on Monday, July the 6th. As a reminder, if you do have any questions related to your nutritional plan, workout program, supplements you are currently taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can DM me your questions on my Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for supporting the YouTube channel. If you do like the content I'm putting out, please like and subscribe to the channel. I do appreciate all the support I am receiving, as well as the feedback I receive from all of you. If you are looking for a coach to work with in Vancouver, BC, my in-house roster opens up this August. If you're working for an online coach to work with, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, year-round, my roster is open right now. DM or email me today. Thank you all, and I will see you all next week. Bye for now.